Okay, so first of all, I would like to talk to you about mental health. I think we have a mixed audience here, and maybe some people understand what mental health is, but perhaps others less so. So let me just explain that mental health is not just the absence of mental illness. In fact, it is a state of well-being where people are able to enjoy their life and cope with normal stresses in life, work productively, and contribute to their community. And that definition is important for urban planners and architects because, of course, that's also what we want from our urban populations. So sometimes cities are good at supporting mental health, but other times less so. We know that, there's lots of different research, but essentially we know that there's more depression, there's more anxiety, and there's perhaps up to double the rate of schizophrenia in people who live in cities. So why should that be? Well, my research suggests that amongst all the other things that are determinants of mental health, there are two things particularly relevant to urban design. Pressing the wrong thing, just a moment. So one is overload. People who live in cities are exposed to many, many more people than they could ever know, and they're exposed to design everywhere they look, things trying to make them think and feel and act in different ways. And all of this can become compounded until people are overstimulated and feel like they want to retreat rather than socialize or enjoy the opportunities of the city. So there's that combined with the city strips away some of our protective factors. There's lots of things that keep us all in good mental health, and sometimes the city causes problems here. So what are those things? There's lots of research that's going on at the moment, and I know that we're going to find more and more urban design factors that will affect mental health. But at the moment, the research says that some of the key ones are access to nature, and people who live in green places are less likely, for example, to be taking antidepressants after adjusting for all the different factors. Physical activity. People might think of physical activity as something that's good for physical health, but it's also very important for mental health. In fact, antidepressants and regular exercise have the same effect on people with mild to moderate depression. Then there's designing for positive social interaction. There's good uninterrupted sleep, and there's safety, whether that's safety from crime or from traffic, or perhaps if you have dementia, safety from getting lost. So I've been here in Tokyo for more than a year now, based out of Tokyo Medical and Dental University, and I've been looking at what does Tokyo do in these different areas to support mental health or not. So the first thing that this is a little bit pesky. The first thing that we look at is access to nature. We know that being surrounded by nature is really quite good and supportive for your mental health. And Tokyo's really good at this. This is a picture of the building site next to my house. And you guys may be looking at this and thinking that looks normal, but I see that they've built a special place for a tree and a special door so that somebody can go inside and water the tree. And I have never seen that before in any city. And I think it underlines that Tokyo has a real focus on the benefits of nature. And of course, this urban parks are an amazing opportunity for access to nature. And Japan has this tradition, of course, of Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, where there's this understanding of how good it is to be immersed in nature. But not everybody can be in an urban park every day, and we know that seeing nature regularly is what helps in mental health. And it's been very interesting for me to see in Japan that residents are putting all these plant pots along the streets in order to green the neighbourhoods. And it's interesting to me that they're empowered to do that nobody takes them away, as they might do in many other kind of cities. But also that Japan has all these neighbourhood small streets, all these neighbourhood small streets where there's not many cars. The cars are mostly kept in the larger streets in many neighbourhoods. And that was interesting to me because in Barcelona, they've come up with this concept called super blocks, where this is essentially their aspiration. they want to get the cars on the big streets and the neighbourhood streets to be free for green space and walking and cycling and things. And it's interesting that potentially Tokyo in many areas is actually already achieving that. Of course, businesses are also being motivated and incentivized to install vertical green space, roof gardens, private public parks, and essentially there's quite a lot of focus on green space. But we mustn't forget blue space, because part of nature exposure is water. And lots of Japan's rivers have, of course, now gone underground, and many of those that are there are sort of lined by uninspiring industrial architecture. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for Tokyo to really do things to help with exercise and green space and social interaction in the waterways. I really like this, this is one of the stations in Tokyo which has quite a lot of suicides, and they've innovated in various ways to try to reduce them through design. So here you can see they've gone for nature pictures but also blue light, both of which are potentially helpful for reducing people's thoughts about suicide. Of course, there's lots of stations in Tokyo, which is fantastic because it means that what we have is public transport as the first option, which means that there's a lot of focus on how do people get to and from public transport and their destinations. So there's been a really good investment in pedestrian infrastructure that I think other cities can learn from. There has been less investment in cycling infrastructure, and my research has shown that this is probably because there's so little commuting by bike, because many companies are either deterring people or actually preventing people from cycling to work because of concerns about accidents and insurance. And I think that while commuting to work by bicycle is not mainstream activity, then the infrastructure is going to remain in its infancy. Here we have the social exercise, very important in Japan, and it's really great at certain times of the year because you can go out, you can be outside, you can be social. I'm not sure the alcohol is quite so good for your mental health. But you know, the cherry blossoms fall and most people stop having picnics. Many people I interviewed said that it felt childish to have picnics at other times. And that's a shame because we're wasting the opportunity to use those public spaces, although some are springing up that are being considered a little bit more adult appropriate. But nevertheless, it's an opportunity. So what can Tokyo learn? Lots of things, and they're mostly in that piece of paper that's been on all of your seats. But embrace the bike opportunity and improve the infrastructure to get more people getting those benefits. When you're designing any public space, go for social space. Maximize the opportunity of the waterways, and given that so many people work long hours, figure out how to do good design inside office buildings. And what can Tokyo teach the rest of the world? Many things, but here's some that I like. Empower residents to green their local neighbourhoods. Install facilities like showers and lockers that lets people engage in social activity outside. Get the cars off the little neighbourhood streets and make sure that your public transport system is good enough to support that. Think about interior placemaking. We think a lot about what to do with placemaking in town squares and things, but there's opportunities that lots of people are thinking about, for example, in busy shopping malls. Could they be the new town squares? Who can say? And finally, innovate. It's really interesting that people are doing things with blue light and things like that. So there's lots of new, emerging, interesting ideas, and there's the opportunity to go forth and do that. I hear my bell, so I will certainly stop.